Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Happy New Year. This is the episode 21 of the world's greatest podcast, the Pod Podcast. The March of Innovation continues. We've got Raina from Spicewell today. This is really cool. I say this a lot, but this is really true here. Innovation can come anywhere. There's innovation in every category, there's innovation in every part of the store, and it's needed everywhere. And I think you'll hear from Reina about a product that's innovated a category that has had very little innovation for the past couple of decades. And I think by the time everyone's finished listening to this, they might realize how big of a deal this is. So, Reina, welcome. We're happy to have you. Let's talk about Spicewell and where it came from and why it's important.
Yeah, just as a branding aficionado and obsessed branding person, I love that you have named this the Pod Podcast. No one else can do that. That's so cool, and very funny. So yeah, thanks for having me. And I love that idea that innovation can come at anywhere. There's all these sneaky old dusty categories that I think have not been held up to the light and re-examined for our generation. We're still using our parents or sometimes our grandparents' products, and it's just time to level up. We know better, we can do better, there's better science, there's better ingredients, and also the needs of the planet have changed and the needs of our nutrition have changed. And that's really sort of how Spicewell came to be. So our category is salt and pepper, the most commonly used ingredients in the world that have not been innovated in over 100 years. I mean, yes, flavor innovation, but not really from a functional standpoint. And salt, sodium is so important, but we really wanted to create something that hinged on this idea of zero habit change, yet you get more nutrition from your daily use of this one product by default. So if you change the defaults, you therefore change nutrition.
Yep.
And that's how it works. So we took dirty old salt and we cleaned it up. We reduced the sodium by 30% as compared to table salt. And then we added in real vegetables. We added in about one serving of vegetables per half teaspoon. And those vegetables are spinach, kale, broccoli sprouts, um, Brussels sprouts, like all the stuff that you wish as a parent your children would eat. And now they eat it and they
Yeah.
don't even know. It's the
Whether they
best,
know it or not, right?
whether they know it or not. So between the salt and pepper, they both have this vegetable combination. Then the pepper is blended with turmeric, which is an Ayurvedic age-old medicinal combination that really helps with gut health and inflammation. And the world's biggest population country uses this pretty much in every meal, this combination of pepper and turmeric. And it's so healthy, it's so good for you. And I'm really excited for more people to use this on a daily basis and see the impacts on their health.
I think some of the best ideas are the simplest ideas.
Yes.
And I mean, the concept of putting necessary nutrients into routine products has been done before as a concept. I mean,
Yes.
vitamin A and D, milk and iodine and salt, right? I
Yeah.
mean, people have done fluoride in water. I mean, people have done it.
Yeah.
Why hasn't anyone thought of this before? I mean, it seems like it's so necessary. And how hard, I mean, it's got to be like just easier said than done, right? And what's the process of getting all of these nutrients into the salt?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think first part of your question, why has no one really done anything with this? I think we don't really tend to rethink the staples quite as much as we should. I think we're always sort of skimming off the top of the cupcake, basically looking for that best new snack or the best new beverage. And I think there's so much innovation in those categories. Then it's a little slow, slower turns because that's the category, but it's also a little sleepy, right? So you have bigger opportunity, probably less risk
Yeah.
overall. to kind of go for it and clean it up. But it's definitely based off the template of functional beverages, something that tastes better and is better for you and does something for you functionally. So there's sort of like this triad of the framework. And I really like, I mean, we have many more categories we want to apply this to. As we grow, we have some line expansions that we're thinking about, stuff that we've had in planning and formulated, but just haven't launched. And I think there's just so much opportunity. But I never set out to do this. It was a complete accident. So, in terms of how Spicewell came to be, it was literally because my husband had knee surgery, brought him back from the hospital, and the same day, my 5-year-old daughter and my 8-year-old son were in a bike accident, and my 5-year-old broke her collarbone. My son was all banged up. So, we just had a lot of injuries. We had two people who could not walk in the house. It was the middle of the pandemic. Everyone was already kind of semi homesteading, and so we had a lot of gardening to take vegetables from. And I knew that they needed nutrition to heal, and I spent all of my time just thinking about what am I putting in their bodies and how am I feeding their cells, the cells that are regrowing bone, the cells that are regrowing skin, and how do I make sure that they heal and get back up on their feet as fast as possible because caretaking is exhausting. And I was like, I want to limit the time I have to caretake. And I know nutrition isn't talked about in healthcare enough. I know this is a problem in the Western medicine framework, but as someone who grew up in an Indian household, accessing Ayurveda very casually, like in the kitchen, when I had a stomach ache or a headache, I'd get this herb boiled, I'd get this combination of spices, and I would feel better. So I really kind of went to that ancestral knowledge, and I didn't, I've never studied it formally. I didn't have anything written down, and I just took the vegetables, the kale, the broccoli in our garden, dehydrated it, sprinkled it into smoothies and soups. And eventually, since I was putting it in everything, I was like, let me just put it in the salt and pepper. That way they will get it whenever they need it versus a greens powder that tasted
Yeah.
terrible. We tried a lot of a lot of things. And then it was a complete accident. This company, this product, it just came out of caretaking and successfully caretaking two people and making sure that they were back on their feet, and it worked. And they both had 50% faster rates of recovery than their doctors were expecting. They were really like it was fast because we did nutrition, we did no over the counter medicine, which for us is what worked. Um, and I think then we had Mark Hyman join us as an advisor almost immediately. And our first advisor was Ann Veneman, who really recommended that we work on a low sodium product. Having worked, she, ran the USDA and UNICEF World Food Program, and she knows nutrition on a global scale and what we need. And then I fell down this rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, nutrition in the US, like 94% of adults suffer from a nutrient deficiency of some kind. That nutrient deficiency then opens up your cells to have chronic illness. Basically turns on that gene expression for chronic illness if you have like a chronic nutrient deficiency. So what is one way that we could counter that? Get enough nutrients so you don't have the nutrient deficiency, so your genes are now working the way they're supposed to work instead of working against you. And I just wanted to solve that problem. And I'm like, what is the thing that can go further, faster? Salt and pepper, something that involves no habit change, something that you can just swap.
So when you were developing it, commercializing it, was there a thought process of I would imagine that in some iterations it did taste different, right? It would start to taste like the vegetables that and so there's a lot of other there's flavored salts and peppers,
Yeah.
but they don't contain the nutrients. So was there any point along the way where you toyed with having different flavors and then decided on keeping it straight and narrow?
Yeah. We initially, like, the kale was really overpowering and the broccoli was really overpowering. And then along the way, as we went from, home kitchen manufacturing to a co-packer, we also had to find the consistency. So finding the right freeze dried, finding the right dehydrated vegetables that also retain their nutrients.
Yeah.
So we went through a lot in terms of development, but we went through it really fast because it was a very narrow palette we were looking for. We was like, it has to taste like salt. That I had already decided because that's just easier if you want to be a replacement.
Yeah.
And it has to taste and function and feel like pepper. And it is. I mean, 90% of the formula is black pepper. And, then we've added in some other things. And we just launched today, actually, our reformulation. So we are now really focused on one serving of vegetables per half teaspoon because we've found like just a great way to take buckets and buckets of kale and broccoli and Brussels sprouts and get them down to just a few bits of powder.
Yeah.
And it's really like what happens when you dehydrate things, right? They just get smaller, but the value is still the same. And what's great is now we've always iodized with kelp, but now we're working directly with our kelp provider, and it's sourced from Iceland, and it's highly nutrient dense, and it's really good for your body. It's easier to absorb the iodine this way. Most salt has chemical iodine in it, and it has fillers. It has anti-caking agents and aluminosilicates. It's got heavy metals. So I feel like in a way, it was a no-brainer. It's like, why would you buy any regular salt if
Right.
you can buy this?
Right. Well, and the density of nutrients in there is huge because there's no caloric content to speak of, minimal caloric content,
No, none. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and so you're getting nutrient density with no calories. It's like that's going to be the biggest thing in 2025 that everyone is looking for.
Yeah, and I think not enough people are talking about, all your doctors say, okay, eat a variety of fruits and vegetables. Don't eat, like have that rainbow on your plate, right? This gives you that. This gives you the variety. It is so hard to eat a variety of vegetables because it's just a lot to buy, it's a lot to prepare, it's a
Yeah.
lot of texture differences people don't always like. But yeah, so this is our brand new packaging that I literally just got these yesterday. I'm very excited to share the first time that they're
Yeah.
making their debut.
So what are some of the enhancements here to the new packaging? As just as an example,
Yeah,
like what
yeah,
did you learn
sure.
along the way?
So we needed this to function more like a shelf talker, right? Since this is our product, it needs to do a little bit more heavy lifting, and I can show you the old version here, which we continue to update. But we were really focused on 10% of your daily vitamins earlier. We did a lot of testing with consumers, and they didn't care about the vitamins; they cared about the vegetables. So we're like, okay, we're gonna go to one serving of vegetables. This is much
Yeah.
more important, and it's something that only we can provide with what we have done. And just like a lot of like the lower sodium needed to be called out, and then just the fact that there's 9 veggies in there as well. So
Yeah.
those, and then people wanted to see the product, so that's something that we really spent a lot of time just trying to figure out how do we show it, because if we have an actual window on the product, it'll oxidize and it won't look good. So we
Right.
really only work with an image, but we got it there. I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of our design team who helped me kind of execute this vision and get it to
It
where
looks
it needs to
great.
go. Thank
It
you.
looks really good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and they have a semi-open kitchen. Instead
Yes,
of the big open kitchen is not always functional for the restaurant, but you still have like that window into the inside of what their product looks like. I think
totally.
it's cool. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's good and it tastes great. So that's the other thing. We sort of just adjusted the flavor of the salt a little bit more, and it's now just a little smoother, a little less vegetable forward and umami like it was. And now it's just salty.
Yeah,
So
salty salt. That's healthy.
salty
So
salt.
I think it's great. I think the simpler the better. I
Yeah,
really think that what we're going to see over the next few years is a lot of products formulated on this concept, which is let's take the things that people already eat and make them better.
absolutely.
We're
We
not
need,
asking people to do too much and
yeah,
change their lives, but we're changing their lives without them actively investing time in doing it, which is more
yeah.
realistic for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think I spent a lot of my career living in the future, so like doing a lot of scenario planning, going 5, 10 years in the future, and just looking at the soil issues and just what the density of our regular vegetables have become. It's just less and less every 5 years. It's just a significant drop in terms of magnesium content or vitamin content. And I think a future world is going to need more products that have more vegetables, more phytonutrients in particular, like not chemical lab created vegetable vitamins, but actual nutrients from real
Yeah,
fruits and vegetables, because that's what our cells respond to.
right,
We only absorb 20% of supplements
right.
anyways,
There's science, I mean, the science will evolve on it,
Yeah.
but I think what people will realize is that the best way to be healthy is to eat better. and, and there's lots of other things you can do, but there's nothing that's better than for you than just eating the right food. So everybody does it multiple times per day.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
I will say, like, Pod Foods immediately recognized that, and I think have been such a great partner for us because they didn't just shove us into like the rest of their seasonings and sell us occasionally, right? We found that we were being treated in a way that really helped us grow, and so for that, I'm really grateful.
thank you. No, I think it's neat. I think more retailers should try it. Where it is available today, it's doing really well. But I think this next year, 2025, we've got a chance to have more consumers have access to it. So that's what we'll be working on to get it onto the shelf and more retailers. And
Yes.
there's not anything else quite like it, right? So it's simple. It's not rocket science, but there's not anything else like this. So if someone's not carrying this, they don't have anything comparable, which is a good place for you to be. So
Yeah. An obvious uplift to whatever is being sold in that category.
yeah, cool. Well, thank you. We'll be rooting for you. Good luck. Have a
Thank you,
good
Peter.
year.
Thanks for
Yep.
having me.
Yep.
Bye.